Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Minecraft Disney Q&A. This is the series in which you all send me questions regarding all things Disney, whether it's the books or the movies or the parks and the history, and I try to give you answers to the best of my ability. Today we have 4 great questions, and we're going to walk around the parks and just dive right in and start answering them. So, quick one first from Benjamin Remlinger. Benjamin asks, if Inside Out is a very popular movie, do you think they will replace the Imagination Journey with Figment rides, so instead of imagination, it would be the moods? That is an interesting proposal. Do I think it'll happen? I think that's a very specific question, so I think the odds could probably be very low, but I think that's a really cool idea you came up with. You know, I do a revisiting series where I talk about how I'd refurb all these rides, and so I'm all for toying around with like what ifs, and I think that's a really cool one. But I think the general question is true. Yes, if any movie or television show or any property like that does well enough, I think it's totally expected to see it show up in the parks in some form or another. If it's a character meet or an attraction. Looking at Inside Out, I think that's got a lot of value for character meets to do different characters in different places. I think maybe not Figment in Epcot, but, you know, they've just shut a lot of things down in Hollywood studios, especially the Backlot Tour, which is right next to / behind the Pixar area. So maybe there's a space for the moods there in some form or another. Our next question comes from Daniel Burns, who says, it has come to my attention that there's a Star Wars mini-land in multiple Legoland parks around the world. Because Disney owns Lucasfilm and Legoland can be seen as a rival park to the Disney parks, do you think that Disney will force Lego to shut it down? Also, the trailer for Avengers 2 Age of Ultron has come out. Have you seen it? And if you have, what do you think of it? Thank you and have a magical week. So, second question first. I have seen the trailer. Looks really cool. I'm excited to see it. I'm a huge Joss Whedon fan. I love the first Avengers, and I'll be interested to see how it turns. The trailer was pretty dark, I think. Pretty serious and dark for a Joss Whedon film and an Avengers film, though. So hopefully we'll see some other trailers of different tone. First question, though. I don't think they'll shut it down. I think when it comes to something like this, where Disney acquires something that's been long established, there are a lot of legal implications, mainly, you know, contracts that usually get absorbed with this acquisition sometimes will remain in place. So if they have a contract with Lucasfilm for these mini Star Wars lands, then Disney might be forced to adhere to them. You know, a great larger example of that is Marvel and Universal. Universal Studios has some Marvel attractions, which is owned by Disney now, and Disney and Universal Studios can definitely be seen as rival parks, yet there are no plans to remove these because they are locked into that contract. For how long? I've heard varying answers, from forever, perpetual, a contract in perpetuity, to some rumors that that contract's going to be up in a couple of years and Universal's going to be in a lot of trouble because they're going to have to get rid of it. We'll find out, I guess, as time goes on, but the basic, you know, answer there is that there's a lot of legal background that, you know, makes it a much more complicated answer than just saying, well, we're competitors now, so take it down. Especially because that could be seen as very, in a way, anti-competitive in itself. That's why there are certain laws. Otherwise, you can just buy up a company and shut down the thing that they're doing that you're tied into. I mean, there's a whole legal world that I'm definitely not qualified to talk about as somebody who's not a lawyer, but and as somebody who doesn't know the legal implications of how they bought Lucasfilm. So I think the short of it is, though, I don't think you'll see them closing it, because also, you know, Legoland, I wouldn't rank them up there as a big competitor, and I think it would only help strengthen the Star Wars brand, which is what Disney's going to want as they re-release these, or create these new Star Wars films going into the future. So it would almost hurt them to force them to be shut down. Our next question comes from Movie Review Central, who asks, I have 2 questions this week. One, now that it has been officially released, what do you think of Moana, the new Polynesian princess? How do you feel about this idea? Do you think they are rushing it with a late 2016 release date? And second, what happened to the Big Thunder Mountain TV show? I remember being so excited for it, and now it seems that they've given up on it. What happened? Your friend, Tuxedo Walry. So, second question again, we'll start with the second one. I have no idea. That whole project sort of just fell off the face of the earth, I guess. But it's not too surprising. In the world of TV and film, there's something called as, production hell, pre-production hell, or pre-production limbo. This idea that there's so many steps that go into creating something that it's not uncommon for something to get stuck in it. That doesn't mean we're never going to see a big Thunder Mountain TV show. That just means it could be longer than we expected. And I think when they're ready to share that stuff with us, they will. First question. So yeah, they announced the new Disney princess, Moana, Polynesian. What I had read, they said they pushed the release from 2018 to 2016. So they essentially cut that release in half. And that has me a little worried, because when you rush a project, it definitely doesn't help any sort of creative endeavor to rush. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is bad news. For all we know, they sat and they reassessed and they said, hey, we're doing really great with this. We don't need those extra 2 years. Let's do that. Let's cut it short. And so that's possibly what they did. I'm definitely going to go check it out. It'll be interesting to see. I think it's a cool area. We haven't seen that sort of Polynesian theme since Lilo and Stitch in the late 90s, or early 2000s, I forget. But it's been a while, and yeah, I'm down to see more of anything they put out, really. I think film, a lot of people get too, I think, overworked up and worried about the quality of something. I'm totally willing to just give anything a try, even things that might seem sacred. You want to make a sequel to some film that you loved growing up, go for it. Worst case, it's bad and we just don't watch it ever again. Best case, it's really great and you have another movie to enjoy. And then our last question this week is quite a long one, so buckle up, because this is a long question. It comes from Class Mammalia, who asks, hey Rob, I recently attended a zoo professionals conference at Disney World and spent a lot of time with other zoo/theme park design enthusiasts and even design professionals. One of the topics we discussed was potential options for a fifth gate, which has been in the news a lot lately, these rumors of it. And my personal conclusion is that most of the broad topics that interested Walt Disney, storytelling, futurism, world culture, animations, show business, animals, have been pretty exhaustively represented in one park or another. This doesn't really leave many singular, cohesive ideas that could act as a core for a fifth gate. My best guess would be a park based around the same idea as Tokyo's Disney Sea, using the ocean as a unifying theme for different park areas. Many attractions from Disney Sea would be redundant, Tower of Terror, Toy Story Mania, but most of the other areas would allow space for many of the often requested attractions from other worldwide resorts, such as the Lost River Delta with Mystic Manor or an Indiana Jones attraction, Arabian Coast with a Sinbad or Aladdin attraction, Mount Prometheus, which would reintroduce the retro futuristic Jules Verne attractions that used to exist in Tomorrowland. There might also be potential for a Manhattan Island area which would host new attractions based on Marvel properties. The legal caveat with Marvel, though, is that in order for Disney to add Marvel to its Florida parks, it would have to first make Universal remove or retheme its own Marvel attractions, which would likely create bad blood on both sides. Anyway, I hope this is food for thought, and I'd love to hear your comments on these ideas. Oof. Let me take a breather. That was a great question. I mean, it wasn't really a question, more as a thought. Great thought, though. And I kind of really like this idea of it being based on a similar idea of Tokyo's Disney Sea. A lot of people, when they talk about a fifth gate, I always hear these reoccurring ideas of a villain park or a thrill ride park or a Star Wars park or a Marvel park. And what I really don't like about it is that these singular cohesive ideas that you mentioned before, I think that goes against this core tenement of what Disney wanted, which is something that the whole family can enjoy. And I guess in theory you could take one of those themes and create attractions of different levels, but like a villains park, well, if you're not a fan of Disney villains, there's no appeal there. Compare that to a Magic Kingdom where, if you're not a fan of the future, there's still Adventureland. If you're not a fan of, the Great Frontier, there's still Liberty Square. There are all these different places. You have Future World, you have World Showcase, these two sides. Animal Kingdom's a little more unified, but even that has these sort of separations between your different regions of the world. You have the past with dinosaurs and the current, animals we have now. And eventually you'll have this sci-fi element with Pandora, and then you look at Hollywood studios, and you have movies of today with Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and then you have the classic films with the great movie ride, and you have, I think it ranges the gamut enough that there's something for everyone. And so I would love to see if there is a fifth gate ever to not be a unified idea. I think this Tokyo Disney Sea idea is a great idea. I think having some sort of catch-all so that you can put anything new that you wanted. I think there's been a lot of, backlash against the idea of putting a Frozen ride in Norway, because the big argument against it is, well, that's not what Norway's for. It shouldn't go there. And so then you ask, well, where should it go? Should it go in, Fantasyland? It's already got an expansion. Do we want to really keep adding to it? Do you want to put it in Hollywood studios because it's a movie? Possibly. But I think having a place where you can put these ideas, Indiana Jones, things for Star Wars, things for Pixar or Disney Animated Studios would be fantastic. Hopefully more original ideas. If Iger would get on doing some of that, would also be fitting for that. So I think that's a great idea to do something like that. That's just gives Imagineers the freedom to add whatever they need, rather than feeling like they're shoehorned into a specific theme that they must keep the ride stuck to, or just find another place to put it in. As for the Marvel thing, I mean, they're competitors. I think the bad blood wouldn't be as big of a problem. I think it's really more like the price tag that would come with buying them out of their contract might be so high that Disney would think that it'd be just worth it to let Universal continue to use Marvel. But we don't know the exact details of those contractual terms, and I guess only time will tell when it comes to what they are, as I mentioned earlier. So I don't know. Anyway, thank you all for the fantastic questions. If you have a question you want answered, all you have to do is leave it in the comments below. I try to get to as many as possible, if not in the video themselves, at least in the comments. If you would like to ask a little more directly, I'm at Rob Plays on Twitter. I'm Rob Plays That Game on Facebook and Instagram. If you want a regular feed of these Disney Q&As in your inbox, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, whatever you do this week, make the most of it, because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you next time for the next episode of the Minecraft Disney Q&A. Bye, everybody.